One's ready. One's ready. Go! That's what I was going to tell you, is that I use my sweet car that I really, really love to text you. And then I go back at my text messages when we were shaming you for not texting me back. And then it turns out that the car didn't send the text. So you let me know if you want to come over.
To answer the question, no, we can't, because Maggie is just, I was just cooking burgers yesterday, just going out to the grill. And she's like, you know how mist is probably.
Yeah.
As soon as you get up, she's like,
where are you going? Where are you going?
It's like, dude, you got to chill out. So we'll have to take a rain check and reschedule.
All good.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to the podcast. That was a good intro. Now you guys know about dogs and puppies and text messages and all kinds of stuff. Welcome.
And Mercedes text iMessage or whatever it is. I don't know what one Mercedes uses, but it doesn't work very well.
It's Apple CarPlay. Yeah, it's Apple CarPlay, first of all. Second of all, I did not mention the car type. You did. So that wasn't a humble brag. That was you bragging for me. So in your face. Get the GLS 2025 450. It's great.
Well, first off, before we hop into that, Trent, how are things doing out there?
Good. What?
Dude, it's crazy, man. I saw the thing about the what is it, campsites and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a bunch of folks.
Like, that's terrible, man.
Yeah, I'm. It's whatever. It's what are you gonna do? There was a river. There's a bunch of rain. The rivers were rising, and if you don't get out of the way, then you'll just go along with the river. So
yeah.
It's not funny, but I don't know what else to do about it. Everybody wants to be like, it's so sad. And I'm like, I can't take on any more additional sadness from folks that I don't know anymore. I can't do it.
I mean, if we're going to lighten it up a little bit, a weatherman may have prevented that.
No, the harp isn't actually in Texas. See, what we focus on is the stuff further out west. And we really don't mess with the stuff.
Dark sense of humor, people. Come on.
Yeah, come on, get up for it. Yeah, it does suck, but what are you gonna do? Are you guys should make stickers like San Antonio strong. I still see Vegas strong stickers with the skyline. You guys should do the same thing.
No,
Riverwalk. Some videos of the Riverwalk were insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard because it's a good thing, right? Because everybody's been complaining for years about the drought and Canyon Lake and all these things being, being low, and the water table. And it's funny though to look at the local news stuff, and it's like, well, now there's these floods. You're like, thanks a lot, Trump. And it's like, but we were in a drought 2 weeks ago, and you were like, thanks a lot, Trump. It's just like, sweet, y'all are stupid,
bro. It was a big weekend. So seeing the July 4th celebrations, big beautiful bill obviously got signed. The one thing that I am super pumped about, because I was kind of I wasn't doing anything on Instagram. I was trying to stay off of it. I was just trying to just chill yesterday and have a good July 4th. I was just posting nothing but America core on my page. It was just nothing but America videos, 75 stories in a row of just cool shit. There is going to be, during the 250th birthday of America, President Trump is building an octagon on the White House lawn and inviting 25,000 people, and they're having a UFC event at the White House.
Happening?
It's 100% happening. Shut up and take my money. And they put pictures of Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. And it's Conor McGregor posted, the White House is the one place where problems actually get solved. And it's a picture of Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor in a face-off. Shut up and take my money. Make that the biggest card that's ever been on the White House lawn. Get out of here.
Man, that's bonkers. Well,
I haven't said the word bonkers in a long time either. That's good.
I'm just goofing.
Just new boot goofing. Do we want to talk, since we're not into the actual, we got a banger for you today. We're going to talk about something that everybody's been hitting us up for incessantly for 6 months. We've literally been tracking this issue, guys, for 6 months, and we haven't said anything. And all three of us woke up on one today. So we are going to talk about the new pipeline changes that are coming in AFSPECWAR and how they're going to completely re-envision the pipeline again for the 5th time in the last 3 years. And we'll see what that means for you. But as we give you that little teaser, are there any partners that we want to talk about? We got some big things coming as far as partners go. Jared.
We do. So here's some cool stuff. We just brought on Tasty Gains, right? We're still waiting for our order to come in, right? but I am looking forward to getting some of those creatine gummies, dude.
Mm.
I've started taking creatine for like the last 2 months, because I was always just kind of like, whatever. I didn't know about all the brain
The
stuff.
cognitive benefits?
Uh,
Bro, 12 grams a day, creatine, cognitive benefits, especially for guys like us that are a little bit older and have TBIs. How dare I have been, you know what? You have now hurt my feelings. I know, because I am who I am, I know that I've railed on and ranted at you about the benefits of creatine before. How are you feeling? How is that brain feeling now?
I'm great. Focused at work. It's nice.
Feels good.
One of the safest, most studied supplements with wide-ranging benefits that we've ever come across, Jared.
Yep.
It's not a yeah.
It's for men and for women. Women should be taking creatine. You should be taking more creatine than you thought. Like, you don't
Just hit
have
20 a day, y'all. Just hit, it's fine. As long as your stomach can handle it, just hit 20 a day.
Well, my favorite part about Tasty Gains is like some of the most, they basically went after the low hanging fruit first. So you may have seen them on Joe Rogan. You may have seen them on, John Shrek McPhee. You may have seen them, Valhalla VFT, our friend Nate. And then they finally went for the big dogs.
Your friend Nate. Let's just be clear.
He is my friend. I love it. I love Nate. He's so good. You should see our DMs. We'd go directly to jail, but there's a lot of good conversation that happens in there. There's a lot of
Tasty Gains decided to call in the big dogs, huh?
Tasty Gains had to freaking shoot their shot at the big dogs. They were like, Joe Rogan. Nah, man, that was just a stepping stone. They were going to Joe Rogan to get to us.
I mean, it's a stepping stone for them, like whatever. But the important thing is that like the great thing is you guys are going to get the pre-workout.
I can't wait.
Like I will not. I mean, I'll try it, but I don't know, man.
You're not a pre-workout guy.
I'm not a pre-workout guy, and if I go in there for game like day one, just throwing in a freaking gummy, whoa,
get him.
Might not do well for me.
Well, the other one they have is I'm super excited about it. The nootropic gummy. I'm a huge fan of nootropics. Like nootropics are chemicals that help your brain operate efficiently, right? Man, with this newfound, like, I don't know what month I'm at because I don't care. I'm not tracking or anything. But this newfound sobriety, really getting my nutrition on point, really getting my supplementation on point. I'm just going to step it up a notch. Got some pre-workout gummies, got a little nootropic on board. I'm trying to be limitless. You know what I mean? I want to be Bradley Cooper in all senses. I hope I look like him one day. Shoot.
I mean, not a bad dude to kind of look like.
That guy's beautiful. What are we talking about?
That's what I'm saying. It's
Oh my gosh. I mean? Do we have a code for Tasty Gains or anything yet? Or
no, we
talk about Bradley Cooper.
I think that they'd appreciate it. No, there is no promo code for them. Just go over to tastygains.com, check out any of the products they have, snag yourself a purchase. Upon checkout, there will be a survey just to let you know or let them know who sent you, and you can absolutely let them know that we sent you.
We'd appreciate that. Maybe go on. They've got a great social media. Their social media is banging. Like their Instagram presence and their social media presence is great. Maybe just throw a tag in there. Be like, hey, I found you guys through One's Ready. We'd appreciate it. It'd be great. Just let them know.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that.
Can I actually follow their Instagram page on like Toehold?
Wow. So first of all, hurtful. Second of all, they have a new page at Toehold USA. Third of all, I have it on good authority that Toehold page might be coming back. So in your face. How about that?
Still can't follow it though.
Still can't follow it.
They personally cannot do it. Like it has nothing to do with whether or not they actually exist. No.
I love it. Every time I've talked to AG about this a bunch of times. No, I'm going to name drop AG because we're friends and I want people to know how important I am. But I always laugh with AG. I'm like, man, even AG and my wife have met and they've talked about it. And that was one of the first questions old T Money asked. She was like, what's up with this Instagram page? She was like, listen, you can only show flip flops so many times. I got to show some hot chicks. And she's like, okay, well, that checks.
I mean, amazing flip flop. The Stingray. Anyway, not an ad read for Toehold, but like, dude, some of those flops. Those flops are nice.
They are. They're great.
All right. So what's going on with this pipeline thing? You guys doing something weird or what?
Officers being officers, jacking shit up.
All right, so here's what we're going to do, guys. The pipeline's changing. It's not approved yet, and that's where we want to start. So we want to get you guys going. I've said this to I don't want to be hyperbolic. I've gotten no kidding, more than 40 combined messages across platforms from people, from students, from people. I was on a Discord talk where they're talking about it. Like the cat's out of the bag. The rumor mill. And by the way, just to pull the curtain back a little bit, we talk to people at all levels of the Air Force still. We still have great connections within the Air Force. And we've been talking about this. Like, we have been aware of what this plan has been for like 6 months. We just haven't said anything because it's not approved. It's still not approved. Time now, as of Saturday morning, July 5th, still not approved. They're still talking about it. We're going to tell you kind of what the plan is and kind of where they are with it right now to get ahead of this rumor mill, because we've asked the Air Force a bunch of times, like, hey guys, why don't you let us message this for you? And it just never worked out. And then we realized that we're the official, unofficial podcast of the United States Air Force, and we'll do whatever it is that we want. So we're just going to tell you. So this is still in the approval process, right? So we're going to tell you what it's supposed to look like. We're going to tell you the changes. We're going to try to do a good job of giving you, just like we always do, a more balanced look, because there are good things. Like, we understand the intent here. But as always, in execution, things are just a dumpster fire, and they've been falling apart. And we're going to talk about that a lot. So it's not meant to, if you're listening to this, hi AFSOC PAO, hi JAG, hi everybody that listens to the podcast and cries about it in the back rooms. How are you doing? Nice to see you again. This isn't like a shot at anybody. We're not going to mention personalities' names, but this is a highly personality-driven change that really isn't answering any problems. It's just a change, essentially, for change's sake. And that's kind of like my own personal opinion here. And then we're going to do what we're supposed to, and we're going to actually give you some fixes, like how we can fix it. So let's start with exactly what it is. So it's going to change to essentially about a 3-week selection model. It's going to be largely land-based. In that 3-week selection model, you're going to look at the attributes. Those probably aren't going anywhere. And you're going to be selected out. Now, go ahead, Trent. Question from the back.
Yeah, why are we changing it to a mostly land-based selection model?
Because the water is the biggest attrition rate. And if you change it to a land-based selection model like our sister service counterparts, your likelihood of success goes up to the same as our sister service counterparts, like 50 to 60% out of SFAS. That's why.
Then I have a follow-on for that.
Follow on. Good job, Peaches. Go.
Thank you.
Bearded gnome. Go.
I appreciate it. Interrogative. Does that mean that the requirement for amphibious operations has gone away from our mission capabilities?
No, it absolutely hasn't. And it hasn't taken away our singular. The reason that we do a water-based selection is because water, like nothing else, selects out for the specific personality type that we're looking for. When you talk about putting somebody underneath the water and forcing them to do a task on their own with no help from their teammates, that directly correlates to a lot of the things that we've done, becoming one of the most highly decorated group of career fields inside the United States military, which is when there is chaos all around you and nobody can help you. I need you to be a JTAC, or I need you to be a PJ, or I need you to be an SR guy, or I need you to be a TAC-P. And there's going to be nobody that can help you. We talked about this at the OTS, but everything we do has a job requirement that's attached to it. And people forget about that. People are like, oh, why are we doing underwaters? Well, yeah, it's to check your physical fitness, but really what it's giving you is a task that no one can help you, and you are going to be underwater at your own personal peril. And unless you decide that you're going to risk your own life or your own safety and ignore those warning lights inside of your head, you're going to get to the other end of the pool. Tying knots underwater isn't just tying knots. It's you have a task to do. And despite, I see your hand, Trent. I'll get you. Yeah. Do this thing where you like hold it. I can't do it because of my shoulders, but like hold it on the other side. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. I see you, Trent. We'll get to you in a second. But we're asking you to do those tasks and your teammates can't help you out. Yes, we value teamwork, but teamwork is everybody tying their knots on their own in order to get the whole team to be done and not stopping, even though you think you may be in trouble physically. Go ahead, Trent.
So I'm guessing even if we don't value this attrition water stuff up front, but we still have the requirements that we will be super successful, just like those sister service components, in getting folks trained up in the water and through a dive school, right? That's super easy to do.
No, it's actually not.
What?
Yeah, because they actually moved where you're going to be going to dive school as well. And they're disassociating that from the water portion and then changing it as it falls into the pipeline. So this 3-week selection model that they're going to is going to roughly look the same as everything up. You know, it's essentially going to be your durability phase of the SWAS as we see it now, right? So you'll get in. I assume that there's going to, and again, none of this is approved, and there's a lot of stuff that's moving around. So I don't want to speak too specifically on how the flow is going to go. But if it was me looking from the outside in, using the information available to us, you'll get down to Lackland, you'll have a job. So the GTEP or the guaranteed enlistment program, like where you have a contract, I think that's going to become a way bigger deal. We tried Swovie. I love Swovie when it first started. Like we've been, pretty big advocates for the Swovie process. You don't know what kind of job you want to do, so you kind of go into a bucket, right? Well, the unintended second order consequence that nobody could have foreseen here is that the only people that are making their numbers are PJs. And it's a lot. As a matter of fact, PJs are overproducing. As a matter of fact, it happens every single class, and it's been happening more and more and more. As a matter of fact, out of this last selection class, we've got a friend that was doing some training for one of these candidates that went through. He went through, he was in the Swovie process. He did great. Nobody crushed his selection, but he did well. And guess what? They didn't have a PJ spot for him. So this guy that wanted to be a PJ did great at selection, did everything that we asked him to. And they were like, hey, you want to be a controller? Because they had 2 PJ slots left at the end of this fiscal year, and they didn't have a place to put them. And that has been happening more and more and more. So I will give you a word of caution. Guaranteed contracts exist right now. If you know that you want to do one of these jobs, combat control, I mean, they're just giving the berets away at this point, Peaches. I don't know how it feels at that point. There's way more spots for combat controllers. There's way more spots for TAC-P than there are for PJ. If you want to be a PJ and nothing else, get a guaranteed contract. It doesn't matter what your recruiter says. It doesn't matter how long you have to wait. If that's the only thing that you want to do, you better sign that contract that says pararescue on it and accept nothing else. Now, if you want to have the chance of going in and maybe not getting that job, but you're okay with it, you're like, I just want to be in Air Force Special Warfare, keep using Swovie. Go into that bucket.
Why isn't Swovie working better?
Well, because PJs are the only people that are recruiting, number one. And number two, because it kind of opened the door to just get people down to Lackland. It really opened the door to just be like, okay, well, cool. No, look at all these spots we got. Look at all these things we got. And people were like, well, yeah, but I want to be a PJ. And they're like, well, you'll be fine. You should just go. You should just get down there right away.
Or just, not to take shots at like AFSOC, PA, and all those other folks over there, but if you're not constantly beating the drum about combat control and SR, it's weird that folks don't hear about it and then they don't show up wanting to do those jobs. If you're not doing your job, they won't do those jobs because they just don't understand it and they haven't been educated. And even when they get down to the training wing down here, what's the biggest career field out of the 3 of them? It's pararescue. So pararescue is they have more people and all this other stuff, and it's hard to talk someone into something they don't understand yet and they haven't wrapped their mind around. So I'm just saying, like, if maybe there's some failings across the board there.
Well, Peaches, I have a question for you, man. Like, as the biggest consternation, or I think that one of the biggest obstacles is that people look at CCT, and because AFSOC, PAO, all these other pages have focused so long on CCTs drop bombs, and they haven't really focused on the global access mission has become a dirty word. Yeah. And, talking to Dan during the Man to Bay episode, which was awesome. You should go check out the Man to Bay attack episode. He talked about the value of global access and how you can actually, like, that's the cool part of the job. We've talked about that on the show ad nauseum. Like, we're constantly talking about how cool global access. I did global access as a troop chief at the 2-2. Like, that was my troop's job. That was my last deployment, was doing global access. And I thought that was super interesting, super duper interesting. Do you think that they have fumbled the bag on not talking about global access more and exactly what it is to dispel that misinformation of like, oh, everybody's got to be a JTAC or it sucks?
I mean, I think the answer to that is yes. I think that it's a difficult thing to do, though, just based off of, like, look at everything that I've talked about. I haven't said much of the global access I've done, right? Mm-hmm. But we've talked a lot about the things that in terms of JTACery stuff. Same with a lot of the instructors that are at all of these pipeline schools, right? And even the developers who were G-Waters, mm-hmm. that's all they knew, right? They knew minimal global access or force projection, and everything was JTAC. And then you got guys like Rob Gutierrez and Ish Viegas that are just decorated as shit, that have all these amazing stories, and it's all involving around JTAC stuff. So it's, the messaging, and I'm going to throw myself in that is not doing a great job of messaging the importance and the capabilities of that force projection and global access and all that kind of stuff. So it's, I don't want to put it entirely on those entities that are doing it, because they definitely could have done better, but so could I, you know? So it's tough because it is an incredibly important mission, because so many of those things couldn't happen. Those follow-on missions couldn't happen without those mission support sites set up that AFSPECWAR goes in there and sets up beforehand and facilitates all that kind of stuff. You know, whether it's UBL or Operation Midnight Hammer or whatever it is, you know what I mean?
So it's a little bit of fight in the last war, right?
Yeah.
Like we constantly talk about this next war. You would think it would logically follow, like, okay, guys, GWOT was the last war. We need to fight the next war. All of the things we're looking at are global access phase 0 heavy. Every single thing. Like, you really want to be first there. You want to be the first people in Taiwan. You want to be the first people that set this stuff up. One of the biggest, you know, award packages that I wrote at the 2-2, we had a controller who was a JTAC, dyed in the wool, like your quintessential JTAC. And you know what he did? He set up the MSS that killed al-Baghdadi. Like, I literally read what he did on his deployment, and I was like, bro, you were the one that facilitated the strike. Like, very famously, Shane Gillis was talking. It's the event where he's talking about robot dogs. Yeah. And the guy that was great. We got these big, beautiful dogs. He's like, imagine, you know, Paw Patrol in real life. He's like, of course he cried like a bitch. The last thing he saw was, you know, robots and dogs and shit. You know,
like a dog.
A robot dog, you know, Paw Patrol snuck in and killed the guy. But he's the one who set up the MSS for that. That's global access. He didn't drop a single bomb. He didn't do a single JTAC thing. He landed aircraft and provided a mission support site in order for us to go do that. You would think that would be the main focus. That would be kind of just like all other special operations are returning to what they're doing. The SEALs right now, they're not posting direct action videos of them clearing Kalats in Afghanistan. They're posting shipboard seizures. Mm-hmm. They're posting operations in the maritime space. Green Berets, they're not posting walk-ons of 3 to 5K in Afghanistan to go get in gunfights. They're talking about training partner forces and doing FID and doing all this other stuff.
It would be really difficult to like get a video and explain it and show a bunch of dudes hop out of a plane and then set up an airfield and then land that plane at that airfield that they just jumped on. That just seems like way too much. Like, and how could you possibly get access to people doing that type of training all the time?
Yeah. How could you possibly show, I don't know, maybe go to a huge training range in, I don't know, New Mexico, and you show a bunch of dudes jumping in at the dead of night, and as dawn breaks, they're landing fighters and Ospreys and C-130s and setting up a FARP and arming people. And then you show the kinetic effects of that afterwards. You throw a little bit of personnel recovery in there with a little mass casualty. Seems like a video that would bang to me, but what do I know? I'm just a content creator that
I can't know what good content looks like, but I sure as hell can't make it. If you guys haven't seen my sizzle reel of our operator training summit, not great. However, that's why we bring on professionals to make sizzle reels.
Yeah, shout out to Paul. Thanks for coming out, Paul.
So going back to the pipeline, I don't know. So we've talked about the 3 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we all feel some kind of way about that for sure, just based off of our demeanor and the questions that we've had. What do we think about this proposed common skills course?
So here's where we're going to start talking. I love how Trent just laughs, because I already know where Trent's head is. Listen, I'm gonna do my best here to be a little bit more balanced. We need a common skills course. Okay, so this actually came from a problem statement. My commander at Kirtland and I were talking about this as early as 2015. In 2015, when we were talking about changing, it was a larger conversation, right? Like, we didn't have enough people. INDOC wasn't giving us enough people in the back end to have 4 classes a year. And we wanted to go down to have 3 classes a year, because this is more of an AETC-ism. But there's like a class load that you have to accept, right? Like, there's a break-even point where having a certain number of students, it's not worth your time, your logistics, the money that you're going to throw at it. You can actually save a lot more money by just cutting a class out and making the classes bigger, right? This wasn't a hard thing to figure out. It was simple math. I can tell you that if there's only 20 people graduating a class in the beginning part of the pipeline, I can just project that out like 12 to 18 months later, and I can tell you exactly what our class loads are going to be at the end state. And we looked at those numbers, and they weren't high enough for us to have 4 classes a year forever. You know, pararescue, the pararescue combat rescue officer, and PJ apprentice course, we had like 4 classes, sometimes 5 classes a year, because we had so many students that you could meet that minimum class load. Well, during that time, that kind of like 2015 really to 2021 time period, we didn't have enough for it. So we're like, screw it, we're going to switch to 3 classes if we need to go back. And it was like we were telling people their baby was ugly. Like, they were like, no, we can't do that, you guys are cutting the class load out. And we're like, listen, you're going to have a delay. Like, it's going to be 1 quarter of time where these units aren't getting 1 or 2 PJs across the big 3 here in America. The 38th, 48th, and the 58th would just close. It's going to be 1 quarter of time where you guys don't have an influx of new 3 levels. And then it's going to go right back to pretty much status quo. It's going to go back to 3 times a year now, but now you're going to get like 5 or 6 PJs to your unit as opposed to 2 or 3. And that's just what the numbers were. Well, during that conversation, we're like, you know what we need? We need a common skills course, because we're teaching tactics, and it's coming straight out of the Ranger Handbook, guys. Like, tactics are just tactics. Like, there is a book for it. It's called the Army Ranger Handbook. Everybody follows. The Army has doctrine on it. Doing a react to contact is no different. Battle Drill 4 is no different in the SEALs, in the Rangers, in the Army, in AFSPECWAR, in the infantry, in the Marines. It's all the same thing. There's one way to do it, right?
What about soft seer? How do they do it?
They don't do it because they don't exist. Great question, Trent. There is a little bit of nuance, though, because when different places are teaching it, right? Like, you have different instructors that are giving different inputs. And then when you put all those people back together, so the combat controllers are doing it at their school at CCS, and the PJs are doing it at the PJ Combat Rescue Officer Apprentice course. TAC-P is doing it a little bit differently. They have a little bit of different nuances because you have different people teaching the same instruction. You're going to get different outputs. It just is what it is. Trent and I could teach the exact same block of instruction to get to the desired learning outcomes, and students can take away different messages. That just is what it is, because it's personality based. Well, the way that you fix that is you have a single course of instruction taught by a single cadre of people that are vetted and then evaluated and then constantly like rechecked that they're getting the learning outcomes that they want. So they came up with the common skills course. Peaches, I hope you have that graph pulled up in front of you. I think it's supposed to be a 16-week common skills course.
I do.
Don't show it.
Okay, that's what I was like.
Yeah. Don't show it.
So that'll just be way more confusing, because I'm looking at it and I'm confused. I'm like, what is
right? And it's important to say that it is in draft, so I'm not going to show it, because in case somebody did a canary in the coal mine or kind of thing, and I don't want to get this person in trouble. I will tell you, we have spiders everywhere.
Yeah. If you think that we didn't get this very first, we probably got version 1 of this draft in like January. When you guys started talking about this, we get this information.
Yeah.
Is there a time on it for the common skills course? I think 16 weeks. 12. Is it 12 weeks? Okay. So the intent of the common skills course, you're going to get out of your 3 weeks of your selection. You'll have your job, or actually, I think they're actually pushing the jobs down further. Like, they're pushing, like, you'll get selected and you'll be like, okay, tight. And then they're pushing job selection way further in the pipeline. And we'll look at that.
It doesn't say where, but basically based off of the common skills course, you'll either go to airborne course or the MGFE top off.
What is MGFE?
I don't know.
All right, cool.
Why do we keep making up new acronyms to say that we don't know how to train people?
I don't know. So the common skills course, they're going to teach all of those common skills: shoot, move, communicate. That's what the common skills course is meant to do, right? It's going to be all of the career fields, I think, and I'll just say allegedly, you won't have a job until now. You'll get your shred out. If I was doing this as an instructor, I'd select you out and I'd be like, great, you made it. Common skills course, further evaluation, further look at your attributes, ability to learn, and all this other stuff. And then I would probably put you in the job somewhere in that common skills course before you're getting ready to go to your shred outs. Now, this could change because they could decide, well, everybody's getting airborne. Like, everybody's getting static lines still, right? Like, those courses that everybody has to get. There's also, inside of that common skills course, one of the common skills that you're going to learn is SEER. Now, I talked to somebody pretty high up in the SEER community just pretty recently, and we were talking about this common skills course, and they were talking about like they want us to teach. I believe the going in was like, hey, we want SEER to be a part of this here, so that we don't have to like send them out to the school. Like we want to bring SEER instructors down and have them teach level C down at the common skills course, but you guys got to do it in like 5 days. And the SEER community was like, what now? That's a 17-day course of instruction. SEER course is 17 days straight. Like you don't get time off, you don't get weekends, you don't get like you go there, you hit 17 straight days, and they take you through everything to include a field, like multiple field phases, multiple things that we can't talk about, but we can intimate to. Like that's a pretty robust course. And for them to try to cut that down to shoehorn it inside of this common skills course, that's a pretty big lift.
Yeah. So it's mission generation force element is what it stands for. So it's a terrible
which means nothing. That means nothing.
Yeah, it means nothing. So there's some friction points I'll put on this, right?
What a nice way of you to say.
Are you chiefing us right now?
Yeah,
he is. He's chief of staffing.
Well, I don't want to say that this is broken, but there's some friction points at a few places where
there's some obstacles, guys.
That's what I will say friction point, and that's probably as nice as I'll make it because it's completely fucked. But
thank you.
But if you were to use Air Force language, it's opportunities. That's what you're supposed to say.
Oh, nice.
Present some opportunities for us
for excellence.
Just calling a spade, and hey, this is a problem.
Right.
There you go. So that we're talking about an influx of people, right? Because now you're combining all these AFSCs. Which location are you going to do it at? Do you have enough dorm rooms? Do you have enough classroom space? Do you have enough equipment? Do you have enough cadre? Right. So I understand that consolidate.
Do you have enough trucks? Do you have enough? Do you have enough weapons? Do you have enough ranges? Do you all of it?
Although consolidation, like I do think that whenever you talk about like special tactics anyway, that an East Coast, West Coast makes sense. Combine the 2.2 and 2.6, put them, up in McCord. Don't take them to Cannon. Keep them up or just take 2.6.
Maybe leave them at the brand new purpose-built building that we built at the 2.2. And then for a little while they were like, nope, 2.2, you're going away. Everybody's going down to Cannon. And everybody was like, what? That got killed. But everybody was like, what are we talking about?
So, there's constraints like that. And when the problem is that they don't bring in all the experts, right? So you get some people that are kind of planning and thinking about these things in a vacuum, and albeit well-intentioned, right? But when you exclude or you don't bring in other people that, manage the career field and manage numbers and manage manning and training and
maybe have done it before, like maybe have went through, I don't know, one of the courses that you're talking about.
Right.
And what we're talking about here, guys, is like there's a little rumor. We got a little birdie. I don't know if the career field managers, literally the people that manage the career field, the chiefs of like, say, combat control and pararescue and TAC-P, I don't know how much they were consulted in this, if any.
Goose egg.
Oh,
hate to tell you. That sucks.
Not a good look.
Boy, that's...
If only there was like some people that do this managing of people every single day.
But what if I outrank them and I don't like it when they say no to me or they point out things that are not going to work in my plan? What if I don't like that? Then I can just bypass them, right?
No, that's true. Yeah. If somebody asks a question that you can't answer, especially in front of one of your bosses, you're just going to want to not have them in the meeting. It's the easiest way to get rid of that.
Well, just taking care. That's problem solving right there, buddy.
That's it. That's very.
I learned at the academy.
They learned that at Sigma 6 course. They're a Sigma 6 black belt.
Oh my gosh.
They really understand problem management. There's just so many things here. Like you guys don't understand, but behind the curtain here, every hour of instruction, literally down to the hour of instruction, has a number attached to it. Every hour of instruction, to include when you're driving to a training range. Like it doesn't, like this is the level of which you plan a course like this, right? And it takes years of planning and back and forth and iterations. Just driving to the range, you have to figure out, how are we paying for the gas? How are we paying for the trucks? How much time is that going to take? That's awake time for the students, which goes into the big, there's only a certain number of training hours that you're allowed to have students awake in training, and drive time counts for that. So you're like, you have to plan all of these things. Like there's a little sheet that is attached to every single hour and every single block of training for all of these things. When we make big changes like this, and especially when you make one where you're like, this thing is only like 4 or 5 months old, like this grand idea that we came up with here is like 4 or 5 months old. Trent and I were talking about it previously. We're like, hold on, where are you getting this instruction? So even when you talk about the common skills course and you're like, wait a second. So yeah, PJs have their own block of instruction that they were approved to teach PJ tactics, because that's what the block of instruction is called. It's tactics at the Pararescue Combat Rescue Officer Schoolhouse. That's a different block of instruction than the combat controllers teach. And that's a different block of instruction than the TAC-Ps teach. Okay. The information may be the same, but it might be formatted differently. It might have different evaluational outputs. It might have different tests. It might have like all of these other things. All of those things have to be approved before you can even talk about and then there's instructor requirements. There's, okay, well, what are we doing? Is there a safety concern? Because then you need more instructors that are just there for safety. It's called your MIR, your multiple instructor requirement. Usually it's like a 1:8 or 1:10 student to instructor ratio for whatever you're talking about. But every once in a while, like if you're out on the range, that number goes way down. It can get as low as like 1:4. When we were doing live fire react to contact battle drills, which we do at the Pararescue Schoolhouse, we would, no kidding, walk on a range and people would react to contact with a live fire weapon. Our instructor requirement was more than 1-to-1, because you had an instructor for every student that was firing a weapon, plus a range guy, plus a safety guy, plus your medic. So there were, no kidding, like more than, it was like 1.8 or 2 instructors per student on that one. So what are we talking about? Like, is any of that done? Because I would bet that it's not.
So when you build out a course, right, and this is what's confusing about the rapid amount of change at the Special Warfare Training Wing, is what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to like find the new requirements, and then in a
first you start with a problem statement.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this, and who is asking us to do it? Those are the two questions you have to start from. Who is asking us to do this, and why are they asking us to do it?
Well, I think the big question is like, we keep hearing this from like the Pentagon on down, right? From certain people that we didn't used to like that have been fired, but it still is like persisting this idea that you can get folks from the day one in the pipeline onto team faster, and that the teams will accept more responsibility for training like they did pre-GWAT than in years past. And they're like, somehow this is going to be cheaper. Somehow this is going to be more efficient. What are the skills that these folks actually need before they get to where they're at? They never sit down and think that maybe we've already solved this problem and it's about as good as it's ever going to get. They go, well, the boss says that we need to do this and we need to change it. And so we end up in quagmires like this where we're doing all these things, but they don't do any of the stuff that they're supposed to do either. Like you don't have like a course resource estimate out there that I'm tracking for all of these different things, being like, okay, if we're going to ask for all this extra money and all these extra people to do all these different things, or to move people around, or we're going to execute basing actions, or we're going to palm out for this money for, the future, or we're going to ask for a Milcon project in a single location so we can actually have the bed space and the logistical support that we're going to need to train all these people all at once. We're going to take all of our CFATPs and we're going to make sure that they all look the same for these courses, so that when we train the exact same thing in the exact same way, which is what we worked on for a really long time, it's that they all line up. They're not doing any of that. You have officers being like, we got to change this stuff really quickly, and they're not doing it the right way. So they're just taking everything out of hide. And when you say taking out of hide, it means that they take existing infrastructure or courses and they just mold it into like this new thing, and it doesn't work. Then you're working within constraints. You're not actually solving problems, and all you're doing is thrashing at a problem. And you're going to end up with this situation where people are talking like, oh, well, the common skills course might be in 3 different locations. Well, that's not much of a common skills course, is it?
Right.
So
you're not saving anything. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
No. 2 points on that is, do you remember the days when all of this was ran by one senior master sergeant?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
One senior master sergeant.
One. Yep.
And
wasn't that hard?
No. And
like 8 enlisted instructors and one senior master sergeant was the commandant of the school, and they just did everything. Yeah. And a couple of E5s that were your pipeline managers.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Well, I told you back in the day, Mike and I sat down and we came to the conclusion that the NDOC model into dive school, and then sending everybody to a single place where we could consolidate all of our resources for this common skills course and do a one rooftop strategy, and then we could do all of our other stuff after your employment courses, was the way to go. Like, basically, we should just jump on the pararescue pipeline.
The other point that I'll just say, and it's a little bit snarky, but it sounds like it's more about numbers and filling seats than it is about quality. I mean, and I'm saying that from thinking about
Is there
people
a
that are,
soft truth?
yeah, thinking about that from people that have been so far removed from actually doing operations and team time, that when you are operating next to somebody that you're sitting here going like, dude, I don't think you know what you're doing right now. You know,
What? How did you
or
get?
did you just quit on me? Like, or because that got hard, you just,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
and it's like it's the classic thing, like, you know, these folks that even the going in assumption, they're like, oh yeah, we'll just go back to the pre GWAT training days where people took on a whole lot of, you know, of the training at the unit level. Pararescue did that great. Like pararescue is one of those career fields. Like, man, when you were a 3 level, you showed up and there was a whole section called Green Team, and they literally ran you through, and people would joke because they were like, oh, I'm just going through the pipeline over again. Yeah, you're right, because we're teaching you the tactics, techniques, procedures, and processes essentially of how the unit ran and how to be a valuable team member there. When people say, oh, well, we'll just go back to that, the people that are saying it never went through that. They have no idea what that training load did. Like the Green Team dudes at every single rescue unit across the world were the guys that were sucking up the most money, because every single quarter when they got those new 3 levels to the team, they were like, okay, we need to do 15 free fall jumps and 10 static line jumps, and we got to do water, and we got to do rams, and we got to do tactics, and we got to do seer, and we got to do all of those line items, those 3-level line items in the CFETP that the career field, with the input of the career field managers, agreed upon. This is the menu for what it is that we want to do. And then Green Team would run that at the squadrons, and that did not happen at the STSs. It just didn't. Like when you got there, unless you're, I had the distinct privilege of working under some great leadership when I was at the 321st. But the big thing, like the teams were split back then. It was blue team, silver team, strong as shit. What's up? Silver team was objectively better. I'm just saying, I'm just quoting numbers here. Like it's just facts.
I'm just noticing things. I'm a
habitual noticer, and I habitually noticed that we would smoke blue team on everything that they did. But the big gripe there, like the biggest, like, you know, team room banter sort of, you know, derisive statement they can make is like, oh, you guys just train like your own little rescue unit. Yeah, because it works. But when people say things like, oh, we're just going to go back, you know, we're going to put a lot of the stuff, controllers, and I'm sorry, they just don't know how to do that.
well, we did back at Hurlburt Field at 23rd when we used to have IFAM, right? So
Right. Yeah.
AST, we would have just a different name, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was IFAM.
Mm-hmm.
You graduate the pipeline and then you go there, and I can't remember how long it was. I think it was 3 months or something like that. And
it was about that.
Balls
like,
to the wall.
Yeah.
And Herbie's a great place for it, other than the kind of, you know, thunderstorms and that kind of stuff. Like, because you get all the water, you got all the support assets there to help you out and that kind of stuff. But
go to the range, go over to Avon Park. You guys, had everything there. But the point is the people that are saying this, like, oh, we're just going to put the bill back on the units, they have no idea what they're talking about. Number one, they were never the people that were training there during that time. They were in GWAT doing the enabler mission, where you showed up, and the first thing you were trying to do as a controller for all of GWAT is go and immediately attach to a different team and go get the mission. And the only thing that you were thinking about when you were back at home is how you could beat your friend controller to the team to get another deployment. That just is what it is, right? It's just a cultural difference. And the people now that are like, oh yeah, we'll just go back to the way, they're referencing something that they never went through and they never experienced.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because some of the informal direction that we got was that they want to keep it at 12 months or less than 12 months, the entire pipeline. Like the
except the PJs.
With the exception of paramedic, right?
Yeah.
12 months. Like, my question is where is this arbitrary number coming from? And I know what they're going to say. The officers that are listening to this is like, well, we got to get people on the team quickly, and that's what General Slipe would always say. How can we get people out there quicker? It's like, why? It's better to delay 5-6 weeks or even longer to get a more qualified, a higher level of training person to the team. Like, I don't understand, because they're so analytical and numbers based instead of, hey, here's the reality of it.
I don't understand, because if you have like a 15, 18 month pipeline right now, whatever it is, 2-year pipeline, and you have a flow of people coming onto team wherever they're at, and then you arbitrarily cut that down to 12 months, you see a small boost in numbers for the time that it takes to catch up. But then it's the exact same thing, the exact same number of people trained to a lesser extent. And you can talk about like when they have to re-enlist and all this other stuff, but that's a retention problem. That's not an us problem. But like, what are you gaining by the 12-month thing? Like, I think they don't understand that they're not gaining anything by that. And all you're doing is pushing the cart down the road. The whole, catch up on dives sometime later on in your career mentality. It's like they're not even going to like, combat control NDOC days. They're going way before that, when they were just like grabbing dudes out of the Air Force and putting them through a little thing and being like, you're a combat controller now because you volunteered. Maybe you can go to dive school someday if we have a slot.
Well, there are rumors. There are rumors. This isn't verified. There's rumors that dive may be coming back to the pipeline, but that actually causes even more problems, because then you're talking about getting out. Like, so now think about the flow. Think about the pipeline flow. So you're going to get selected.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go through your common skills course. From there, you're going to hit shred outs, whatever that MGFE course is. And then there's other common skills that you're going to have to go to. And those are still owned by the Army. So we're still fighting for airborne slots. We're still fighting for free fall slots, which are going to come way further down the road at this point. I don't even know where they're going to put free fall on some of these other courses. But then you're talking about bringing people back, people that that are selected out, and now you're going to put them through the highest rate of attrition. We've delayed water, and now we're going to put them back through a SOCOM approved pre-dive course. The way that it's set up right now is if you're a combat controller or an SR or a STO, you can quit pre-dive. You can fail pre-dive in the pipeline and be totally fine. Not the same if you're a PJ. If you're a PJ and you quit pre-dive and you can't get to dive school and you can't get qualified, you're out of the pipeline. So PJs are the only ones holding the standard. Anyway, standards are important. Now what we're doing is we're going to take that pre-dive and then we're going to put it in front of when these folks are supposed to live. What's the attrition rate going to look like then? For people that have been preparing for this land-based selection, and then having the way that we have it now, like the DEP program, everybody focuses on the water, and deservedly so, because you're going to go to selection, durability, then pre-dive, then dive. That's always been the way that it is. And people are going to be training for weeks, months, and years. Well, now, and I agree with this, you should only be training for the selection model. If the selection model is land-based, you're not doing any water. You're like, I'll figure out the water when I get there. Well, then you get in the water, and in the first time that you go underwater in a pool is after, let's see, 3 weeks of selection, 12 weeks of common skills, another 3 weeks for, airborne, MGFE, and then whatever other schools you got in there. So that's what, 18, 20, 24 weeks. So we're talking like 6 months worth of your time. And now we're talking about losing people in the pool, getting ready to go to dive school.
So first of all, no one's remembering anything from the common skills course once they go to the employment courses. I just want to put that out there. This idea is always ridiculous to me. Second of all, if they want to look at the old combat control pipeline when they picked up free fall and dive as 5 levels, understand that for a year and a half leading up to that, they were going through this water con training at every single course that they went through.
Yep.
All the way through the ATC pipeline, and then doing another pre-dive once they got on the AFSOC side. And even then, it was a struggle. Like, just pushing this further down the road
they would lose people at the did they call it pre-dive? Is that what they called it at STT? Yeah. You would go through your own pre-dive. And those guys, and again, no shot to those instructors. They were great. There was more than a handful of stories of guys that got all the way through their pipeline and then couldn't get through dive school. All the way through and couldn't get through dive school.
And there were medical things sometimes too. And it's like sometimes it wasn't even their fault. So you'd get a guy that's a full up combat controller 3 level. He'd get over there to Hurlburt and they'd get him underwater, or they get him in the whatever, and like find out that he can't,
clear his ears.
Clear his ears. Yeah. And it's like, well, so what do you do with that guy now? Because like now they're like, no, there's a requirement to be a combat controller. You went through all this training, and I kicked you in the face for a year and a half. You made it through pre-dive and everything, but now you can't be a combat controller. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, that's a really interesting question. So now that dive isn't required in the pipeline, and what happens when a guy in the current model right now, like what happens when a guy gets all the way through, he gets to his unit, he's getting ready to go to dive school, and he just can't make it through the dive program.
Yep.
You gave him his beret. He's there. Like, you want to talk about an even weirder thing? Let's say there was a SOTAC spot that popped up for that dude, and that guy goes and gets his JTAC, and then the command comes down and goes, hey, I know you didn't do it in the pipeline, but get up for it, Playboy. You got to go through pre-dive, and then you got to go through dive school. What happens when you can't get through dive school?
And that's
what do you do then?
That's one of the problems. That's why if it's a requirement, which it is, it's an approved requirement for SR and CCT, and I'm fairly certain they didn't change the CFETPs for it. The only way it makes sense. Yeah,
you're referencing a document that doesn't exist in the
does
combat
exist.
control.
It's just highly ignored.
Oh yeah, right.
The STO one doesn't exist.
Oh right, sorry.
So like, if it exists, then what do you do? Like, you have to either waive it or what? And that's why we have the pipeline set up the way that it is, because of the small number of folks that we have, because of the requirements that we have, because we're not the SEALs or the Green Berets. I don't know how many times we have to talk about this, but I don't have 8,000 Green Berets to choose from to get 5 dive qualified dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the big talk in like, so they called it ST Next. I think that's finally dead. I think they finally stopped having this conversation about completely changing not only the pipeline, but the teams and the team compositions and berets and all this other crap. But there was a specific conversation about dive, and the going in problem statement was like, does every single combat controller need to be dive qualified? And one of the ideas here was like, no, you'd have an East Coast team and a West Coast team of dive qualified dudes that just live in those two things. And they do things like closed circuit diving. They do things like deep water diving. They do things like rescue diving, so that you have 2 dive teams that are ready to go. And it kind of makes sense if you put it at the 2-2 and the 2-3, right? East, West Coast, coastal locations, plenty of areas to go dive, plenty of areas to go work, whatever, fine. Where are you going to get those people? Where are you going to get those instructors? You think global access isn't popular? How about taking an E7 combat controller and telling them you're the dive daddy out of the 2-2?
You're running the dive locker now.
You're running the dive locker now. Like, you were going to be in charge of getting people up to a standard for a dive mission that we all know that CCT doesn't have a unilateral dive mission. PJs do in some regards, because we do recovery, and that's usually handled by the rescue team. That's why PJs never played this dive school game, by the way. Why the PJ community was like, you guys are getting rid of dive school? Don't care. Because number one, the guard has a dive requirement. Number two, the pararescue career field has a requirement in ACC to be able to do dive operations for salvage diving and other stuff like that, like for rescue recovery. That's why PJs were like, no, that sounds tight, guys. We're just still going to send our guys to dive school if that's cool with you.
It's not just about dive, though. That's the thing. It is about amphibious operations, right? And I'm start talking about, like, okay, so yeah, you're talking about your East Coast, West Coast, the guys that are right on the water, right? Take the North Carolina dudes, right? That some of them responded to the hurricane stuff that happened up there, swift water rescue stuff, right? Stuff that's going on in San Antonio yesterday. Like, our dudes, whether they're SR, TACP, CCT, PJ, although they're not going to be diving in there unless they're doing body recovery, they are going to go into the water to do things to try and save people or to try and do work. And pre-dive and dive school directly correlate to success in that, water, or at least confidence. Increases their chances of success in that.
Water confidence.
You remember the conversation we had when they were like, well, we're getting rid of dive, and we came on the podcast, we're like, so what are you doing with pre-dive? Because you can't legally make people do pre-dive if they're not going to die, or you have to attach those STS line items and those requirements to a requirement. When you have dive school, it's a really easy button to be like, we have to do all this water stuff to get through dive school, and all that inferred water confidence and all those other real world requirements that they just kind of fall into that same bubble. And it's a really easy way to say that. But what we didn't do is we didn't go like, okay, we're getting rid of the dive school because it wasn't our choice. You have to create that all of those implied requirements, you have to write all of those out now to go through the exact same water confidence training that you would have to go through before you go to dive. There's a couple differences. Like, there's some very dive specific things, but you have to go through the same level of water confidence training to be competent enough in those situations, which they didn't do, which is why now we have guys going to a pre-dive course that they don't have to complete because they didn't make it a water confidence course. All you have to do is change the number, change your STS line items, and maybe drop a couple of those very dive specific things out of the course.
And you want to talk about second and third order effects, man, it's not just dive school, as Peaches was mentioning. You want to go do a water jump, you know what you need? You need a rescue swimmer. You know what the requirement for a rescue swimmer is? Typically has to be dive qualified or through a specific rescue swimmer course. So now what? We're going to send all combat controllers that aren't dive qualified to rescue swimmer courses so they can support their own water jumps, which are still in these TFE TPs as requirements, or RAMS operations, or working as a boat party when you're doing helicopter-borne operations, doing low and slows and employment into water.
Yeah.
Did we think about any of that stuff, fellas? Did we?
We did.
Well, what do we know?
So yeah.
I love it too here because, like, you know, the funny thing that we always deal with is, like, you know, when people look at our social media or people look at the podcast in general, they're like, these guys don't know what they're doing. They're not PAO, you know, they're operators that kind of have a podcast and, like, they're not doing it the right way. And then when we bring up things like this, the operators will be like, well, you know, what do these guys know? They're just like podcasters that are, you know, now retired. You know what I mean? Like, we can't win for losing on that one. Like, pick a lane, guys. What are we? Are we guys that have, you know, a lot of combined experience on this in a lot of different areas, or are we just podcasters? Either way, I'm fine, but we're better than you at both.
I'm gonna be all right.
I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna be fine. So from there, continuing in this pipeline, Peaches. So we got through the common skills course. We got through, where are they putting pre-dive and dive? What does that look like?
Well, hopefully they use the malts for something.
Well, if it had power, we could use it more frequently, but it doesn't. So it's broken. $10 million pool that we can't use. Yeah. Or I guess, like, there are people using it, but it's like commanders of other units that are bringing their kids there to swim during the duty day. That's a real story. It's supposed to be an aquatic training center, not a pool. Don't call it a pool, everybody. But also, the mission support commander is going to bring her kids to swim at 10 o'clock in the morning because it's summer. Tight. Whatevs.
We've got ears everywhere, people.
How come someone wasn't like, get out of my classroom? They definitely should have told that person.
Get out of my classroom. Yeah. Get out of my classroom. Did you bring enough gum for everybody? Get out.
It doesn't specifically say, well, and I see dive as an employment, but like, as I'm looking at this, it's got air, comm, officer, IMSO, medical. And
man, they really drilled this down, huh?
Like,
that's good. That's solving all the problems.
And granted, you know, it's got draft on it, so
right, got it.
And that's the important thing to say, that
and there was just a meeting where a bunch of this stuff got planned and everybody thought that they were good, and then, as generals do, somebody came in and they're like, I don't like that, and then they removed the leadership of the team that started the initial plan and the initial draft, and then they put different leaders in charge of the project that had been ongoing for like a year and took a year of everybody's work and looking at to do. So these things always change. PJ's mentioned it. The PJs, like, they want this done in 12 months. They're trying to get everything done in 12 months, except for the PJs and paramedic, because paramedic is another 6 to 8 months, kind of depending, especially depending on where you're doing your clinicals and stuff like that.
7 weeks on here.
They've got how long?
37 weeks on this. So
that checks. Yeah. So what is that? 8 months, 8 months plus. So they're still going to go through the paramedic thing. That's still going to be down at San Antonio, which leads to another very good question about this common skills course. So the pararescue combat rescue apprentice course down in Kirtland Air Force Base, New Mexico, we used to house as many as like 250 students down there. The last time that I went down, that place is a ghost town. You know why? Because they're not doing the paramedic course at Kirtland anymore. They're housing all of those students for the majority of their pipeline in San Antonio. So now there's just a whole bunch of dorm space that the AFSPECWAR training wing used to own, that used to be filled with PJ cones, that are no longer there. Like, that place, I used to go work out on the...
This is so upsetting, because I tried real hard to make the SR pipeline go to Albuquerque. Yeah. And the one reason we couldn't do it is bed space.
Right. And now that bed space is just open. It's just so inviting.
Yeah, guys, it's still not a basing action to move our 3-level course to Albuquerque. No, just throwing it out there.
What's a basing action?
So when you move enough...
Trent, don't take it.
Okay, so one of the things about not planning the future out very well from these high-level officers is you always come to this point where they say, it would be nice if we could do all of our common skills in Albuquerque together, which makes sense, but that would require a basing action. You're like, what is a basing action? Anytime you move a certain number of people that are assigned to the military and a mission from one base to another, it requires a basing action, especially if you're going state to state. And Congress people really don't like it when you take military folks out of their state and move it to another state. And because our officers are unwilling to fight that fight up through the Pentagon and up into Congress to do something for our career fields that makes sense, to bring all of us together to go down to Albuquerque and actually like have like logistical efficiencies and training efficiencies and have the space, as long as we let the Department of Energy folks know where we're at in New Mexico doing what we're doing, and actually getting our guys some like training at elevation, which we don't have in the CCT SR pipeline right now. We could have solved all these problems, but because no one is willing to go in there and do the POM stuff that they're supposed to do the MilCon paperwork that they're supposed to do, and to actually fight the basing action fight because it makes sense, we constantly run into them trying to thrash to a new pipeline that makes sense without doing any of the work, because these officers are only around for like 2 years at a time, and then they're going to go on to something else, or they're going to make rank and move on. And it's not just the officers, I understand that, but they're the ones, it's their responsibility to make sure this stuff happens in the long term. And the fact that they can't see it and they're not willing to do the work, the paperwork that is their job, that's why we keep running into these problems. And that's why they're like, well, maybe we'll have common skills course in 3 different locations. Well, then that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Let me tell you what Kirtland Air Force Base has to offer. If we're talking about moving it there, you're like, well, we'd have to build all these things. Let me just learn you a little bit. So the Pararescue Schoolhouse owns the following facilities, owns them. They are theirs. A $54 million small arms training range, complete with robots that will drive around and are reactive targets that you could shoot. $50 million, I want to say it's a 32-lane, $54 million, 32-lane reactive shooting small arms training range. We went and did another project, and I don't know how many millions is this, is we completely revamped the FTX site. It has planning. It's like all container built, right? Like it's your classic out in the middle of the desert home where you can house like 50 students at a time, plus instructors, plus logistics. You can work out of it. It's got connectivity, bathrooms. It's built out of the containers. Like it's 3 or 4 high. There's entire buildings that you can assault. New Mexico has one of the largest government-owned training ranges on the face of the planet. It's within driving distance of the Melrose training range, where you can go drop live munitions. It's got 2 climbing walls, like bigger climbing walls than you've ever seen in your entire life. Mock aircraft for every single aircraft that we own in the inventory. It's got access to fighters, helicopters, C-130s. There is a drop zone that is about, 20 minutes worth of a drive away, where you can drop in and literally walk a 20K overland right onto the base of Kirtland Air Force Base. It's got enough places to house 200 students at a time that are currently not being used. It's got probably the best gym that any single organization in the entire AFSPECWAR training wing, to include Lackland Air Force Base. When I would go down to Lackland, I would go, oh, this place is nice. It's not as good as Kirtland. Cold tubs, let's see, 10 racks, like 10 power racks. Like I've shown pictures of the gym, inside, outside, overhang, HPO, an entire support structure where you could do literally everything at Kirtland. It's within spitting distance of going to places like San Diego. We still do water ops. Guys do water ops at Lake Havasu. Guys can go out to San Diego to do water ops. Live fire training ranges. It's 3 hours away from Cannon Air Force Base and the Melrose training range. It literally has everything that you need. It is one of the best training locations in the AFSPEC. It is the crown jewel of the AFSPECWAR training pipeline. When people get there and go see Kirtland Air Force Base, they're blown away. To include the new AC-130 schoolhouse is going to be down there. There are multiple locations that are building on that base. All of these infrastructure things are already there. The Pararescue Schoolhouse is massive and has taken over more land than anybody else.
And unlike some other locations as well, there are secure classrooms and facilities and things that you could get into for some of the other stuff that we've always wanted to do within AATC, which is really difficult at most AATC bases, is to find some of those skiffs and other things that we could actually start, briefing the folks and training some folks on some of the higher side stuff. Mm-hmm. So it has everything you need. Yeah.
The 58 Special Operations Wing has a whole squadron of helicopters and students that go there to learn. Like that is part of their schoolhouse on 60s and 130s. And there's a guard unit there. So there's a whole bunch of 130s and ability to work in and out of there. People come from all over the world.
But the Special Warfare Training Wing, just throwing it out there one more time, they keep wanting to buy newer cars, but we still live in an apartment. You know what I mean? Like they're not saving up for the new house. So it's like, oh, well, look at this brand new Camaro we got. Like, well, what's your APR on that and all that other stuff? And like, you're still living in this crappy apartment. That car is going to get broken into, and it's not going to work the way you want it to work. Yeah, that's what they keep spending their money on instead of just saving up and buying the mansion.
Well, and the other thing is like, you have everybody that's staying down at San Antonio for MP3, which is what we're calling, the military pararescue provider program. So MP3, they're staying down at San Antonio. Great. Leave them there. Cause you know what that does? It frees up 6 classrooms in the schoolhouse. We purpose built that schoolhouse to house the instructors for the paramedic program.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be, there's 3 classrooms on the right-hand side of the wall and 3 classrooms on the left-hand side of the wall. The 3 classrooms on the right-hand side of the wall used to be the PJU teams, and the 3 classes on the left-hand side used to be the paramedic teams. In the support building that is literally right outside in the same compound, just across from the 2 shoot houses, there are 2 shoot houses underneath those climbing walls that I talked about that are video integrated. I could show you in real time on an iPad and a huge screen. I can have lights, sound,
moving
smoke.
walls.
There are moving walls, light, sound, and it's up to simunition. Light, sound. I mean, I can play, like we would play the odd Han. We would play people screaming. You can do medical scenarios in there. There are mannequins, like the highest level medical mannequins you can have to do all of your TCCC. All of these things already exist with additional buildings that have all this stuff in it. And in one of those buildings, the logistical building where we housed 200, again, this was built for 200 students. There are cages for the teams that are going through. You get your own cage as a student. When you show up to Kirtland, you got your gear issue, and then you had a cage. The senior team and the junior team, PJU, 30 students each, they had their own cage full of equipment, and that was their own space. Sounds like a good place to have a senior and a junior common skills course running through all the time.
You know, when I was going to do the SR thing too, like they were like, our buddy was like, hey, you should have your own space. I'm like, I can tie like 3 connexes together in that open lot that you own out here.
Huge.
And make it just my little SR standalone schoolhouse after we go through the common skills with everybody else. And then
so just to the west of those 2
ranges.
Oh yeah, the west of those 2 huge climbing walls. So the schoolhouse kind of like, I should pull up a picture of it. I could show you. So the schoolhouse sits as like in one location. It's a schoolhouse, an associated building. There's a huge overhang in between them. There's another little building that they've most recently built. And then they've got some other stuff staged out there, some of the tactical vehicles. And there's climbing wall 1 and climbing wall 2. Well, everything west of climbing wall 1 and climbing wall 2, there's probably 400 meters worth of open field space. Fun story. We got that by just putting a fence up. It used to be base housing.
Yeah.
And they tore down the base housing that was right next to it, and all around it too, by the way. By the way, right across the street from all this is a huge open field all the way to the gate. Like the way to the gate.
I think they were like, well, security forces owns that, but they don't really have plans to do anything with it. So if you guys wanted to do something, anyway,
sounds like you could put up a couple trailers and a couple buildings, like just inside of the fence. Like, and again, we just put a fence up. You could probably just put another fence up and be like, oh, we own it. And by the way, the security forces came out and was like, hey, we can't help but notice you put that fence up. That's our land. And they're like, well, it's ours now. Do you guys want to take it down? They're like, well, we're not using it anyway. That's no kidding how the conversation went. And that's how they increase the space of the entire pararescue schoolhouse compound. Oh, and out front, there's an $800,000 obstacle course in the front of the schoolhouse. It's 400 meters long. You can run it in kit. You can run it with a buddy. You can run it with a casualty on a litter. It just exists. It's just out there.
Ah, beautiful.
Sounds like a good place to train to me, but what do I know? I'm just some dork retired guy.
Well, so at the end of this, when we're looking at this thing that we're looking at, y'all, that we didn't show you, I just want to say in the upper right-hand corner, there is a little box. And the only thing that they care about is most of these courses outside of the medical stuff is 46 weeks in AETC.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're wondering why these changes are happening, it's because somebody high up enough the chain said, I think having this in less than 12 months would be a good idea. That is the only reason for all of this change. It is not more efficient. It's not better training for the folks. It's not taking care of the airmen and your instructors. That's the only thing. That's why that's such a big box in the top right corner of this slide, is to show, look, we are meeting somebody's intent that they, interpreted it as 12 months or less. And that's the only reason for it.
100%. Well,
yep. Well, so let's talk about implementation. So there's rumors out there of when this is going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, I got, probably about, it happens in waves, right? Like people have meetings and then there'll be like these texts, these frantic texts, be like, hey, have you guys heard about this? Have you guys heard about this? One of my great friends, shout out to my boy JT. My boy JT hit me up after going to, one of these senior leader working groups. He's like, bro, I got something we need to talk about. And there was like a delay because he texted me after like 8:30, like for you guys that don't know, my do not disturb goes on at 8:30. I don't even sleep with my phone in my room because I don't have anybody that's calling me for an emergency, and there's no emergency on my phone that I could actually help. So I just don't answer my phone after like 8:30, and I don't look at it until about 4:30 when I'm at the gym the next morning. So I see this text and it's this natural delay, and I literally sent a screenshot to Peaches and Trent. And I was like, "What do you guys think this is about?" And then I was like, "Hey, man, what are you talking about here?" And then he laid out exactly like what we've already been talking about. So it goes in waves when people hear about it. The big question is like, when are we going to do this? The rumors on the street are it's happening. It's happening in October. Well, then we'll talk to people. We'll reach out to people that are actually in these meetings and they're like, "No, bro, this got blown up. This part of it had, got blown up, whatever." Whenever this goes live, if it does go live, it might not even get approved. This might be much ado about nothing, which is why we haven't talked about it, because we didn't want to spin you guys up over something that couldn't actually happen. There's going to be a delay. There is going to be a pause in the pipeline. I don't know if they're going to pause people on shipping. That probably won't happen. But all of these things that we talked about, they're going to have to figure out before they can go live. All of these things that you guys think, doesn't matter. Oh, well, we're going to build the plane in flight. Nope. You are going to have to get your lesson plans approved by AETC. You're going to have to get funding. If you don't have wherever we're doing this common skills course, you're going to have to flood resources down to that area. That includes men, weapons, equipment, instructional materials. Money is going to have to follow. You're going to have to, people are going to have to move. Operators that get assigned there are going to have to move and go do things. And cage space is going to become a premium. There's going to be a delay. I don't know how long that delay is going to be, but there could be, it's definitely not weeks. It's months. When they make the transition to this new course, it is going to take a while in order for them to start. You can't just start this course. That's not how things work. It's not like they're going to approve it on Friday and on Monday, like, "Hey, congratulations guys, you're the new class." It's going to be like, you're going to go, when you ship, here's how this is going to work. They're going to tell you, "Hey, this thing got approved. You're going to be going through a new pipeline structure. So you're going to go down to basic training, and then you're going to sit at Lackland for 4 months, and you're going to wait for this thing to go live." That's how it's going to work. It might not be 4 months. Maybe they find some way to get it done in 2, but there's going to be a delay. There's going to be a remarkable time period where people are sitting around not doing anything because they have to get this course together, and that takes time because it's the military.
Definitely. Last thing is they are trying, so with the Swovie and the guaranteed, the GTEP, they are looking to go take that well over 90%, if not 100%, to guaranteeing enlistment and go completely away from Swovie. That is what they want to do. We'll see what happens and all that kind of stuff. So
Trent, you have to do that, right? Like, you have to go back to GTEP. Like, Swovie was a good experiment. I liked it. I liked it in the beginning, but again, you have to wait like a year to see output from what's going on. Like, you got to go to GTEP at this point, right?
And there's too many people involved in it, and the numbers are never clean coming out of everything. It causes way too much thrash. It's like the PT test and them not using an app that could just take away all that thrash instead. The numbers are a lot cleaner when we do GTEP. It's a lot easier to project.
You can't forecast off of a squishy number.
Nope.
You can't be like, all right, well, 130 of these folks are getting in, and 80 of them are Swovie, 20 of them are guaranteed pararescue, 10 and 10 are guaranteed from SR and CCT, and then we're just going to fill it after that. You can't forecast off of that. You have no clue, because what happens when the 80 people in Swovie? What happens when another 70 of them want to be PJs?
Yeah. Well, it takes too long to get the word back to recruiting on what they should be focusing on, and the outreach squadrons that are supposed to be helping, and yada yada. Hey, Jared, do you think that these people that have a hard time pushing back on their bosses about these stupid ideas, could they just hire us to go over to the Pentagon and explain to these people why they don't understand what they're talking about?
They could. Ooh. And you know what? If it meant I can't speak for you two, but I would do it for travel cost. I would
do it for free.
Come out and consult.
Put me in
for
that
travel
room.
Cost.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a millie. Just throwing it out there.
I'm telling you, and I think that's what it is I think that they're too close to the problem at this point. Like, you really need somebody that's disaffected.
Yeah.
Ask any commander that I've ever worked for. I have no problem telling people that outrank me that I think they're stupid. I have no problem in the world. Like, I could sit and go toe to toe with you on a whiteboard all day and tell you where the holes in your problem are and how you can fix them. And you can't fire me. You can't demote me. I'm happy to give
emotional about it either.
No, I'm not. I may be passionate, but I'm definitely not emotional about it. Like, I can definitely sit here and hurt your feelings, sir. I don't care. I want to put a little call to action out there. Guys, and this is to everybody in the chain. If you listen to this episode, hi AFSOC PAO. If you guys listen to this episode and you're like, well, this wasn't correct, and you framed this badly, come on the podcast. Quit talking about it. Quit bitching about it. Come on the podcast and talk. We want to help you. Message. You guys just refuse to let us help. And here we are. Like,
stop waiting to get the 100% solution on messaging. You will never get it because
you already lost it. The only reason we're doing this is because you already lost the messaging.
Well, and we were asked, please don't put this out yet. Like, it's not ready. And it's like, okay, copy, but now you allow rumor mill to just swirl and swirl and swirl. And now all kinds of wild shit is out there.
Right.
So even if we provide an 80% solution, or at least talking points, like, that's better than nothing. So
yeah. You want to put your 90% solution out there? We'll give you the podcast. We'll edit it. We'll let you look at it beforehand. We'll put it out. You get whatever approvals you need for whoever you want. I don't care. Come on the podcast. Come on, talk about it.
So last thing for me is the biggest problem with things like this is that your instructors, your professionals, your NCOs that are working for you, when you implement these smortion of pipeline plans, they're going to do what they have always done. And they're not going to let this fail the candidates coming through the pipelines. They're still going to get the level of training to the best of their ability. They're still going to get these candidates through all the training that they can. They're still going to make it work no matter what, but you're going to burn your instructors out. Like that's what's going to happen. So like, this is one of the problems in our community is no matter how bad the idea, how bad the implementation, how bad the planning is for any of this stuff, at the end of the day, your E5s and E6s, because that's who they are going to kill themselves to make sure that the pipeline is still producing the kind of people that we need in the community. And that's the danger and the problem with stuff like this.
Well, the commanders know that too. And that's why it's so wrong for them to go, well, like, hey, the guys will make it work. They'll break themselves to do it. And they really will. And that ain't right. So that's a whole nother episode though.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We appreciate you being here. See you.
Bye.